down below, you know you better get to shelter before that catches up with you. Even if you're looking at your smartphone app, the rain's still out on the western part of Wichita, and I'm way over here in East Wichita. I got time to get, well, we're not worried about the rain. We're worried probably about the part you can't see on your smartphone app, that fine blue line where the winds are coming through and going to do us a lot of damage. Here's another view, kind of a side view. There's that notch that I talked about. How we've got the slope coming up here. I can't get it. I'm not tall enough, darn it. Got the slope going up there, then you hit the notch, and then it shoots back out over the top of you. But right there, that's where our leading edge is. That's where our very strong winds are going to be. Don't have to worry about the cloud formation up here. We got a blow from some hail maybe coming through back there. That's certainly worth worrying about. But really, before that even gets here, we're going to see some very strong straight-line winds, capable of knocking over high-profile vehicles, capable of breaking a lot of windows and doing a lot of damage, causing injuries. All right, I spent a lot of time on the A of ACEs, awareness, and for good reason. I mean, you need to know some of this stuff, and we're going to come back and kind of give you some practical examples of it. But let's move on to the C, E, and S. The C is communication. When I'm teaching this class out to folks who are going to be storm spotters and stuff like that, that has an obvious component to it. We need them communicating back to us so that we can get that information to the Weather Service, so we can craft warnings off of it, so we can maybe sound sirens. In this setting, the communication is actually maybe going to be more listening than it is talking. Making sure that you're paying attention to the radio when you're out in the field, turning on the KFDIs or KNSSs of the world, folks that put their storm trackers out there, so you know where those storms are and know what's coming your way. Escape routes, thinking about things that might impede your path should you need to go somewhere. Street flooding, very common in Wichita, right? So if you're somewhere that you know is prone to street flooding and there's a lot of heavy rain coming through, get out of that area before you get trapped by it. Or if you're going to be driving through it afterwards, be cognizant of that so that you're not driving into flooded roadways, getting stalled out, having to be a rescue for the fire department or whatever. Think about things that do that. You know, out on the highway, folks love to take shelter under an overpass now, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. But if you're tooling down the road at 65 miles an hour because, you know, the storm's well off in advance of you, remember there were people up ahead of you who are seeking shelter under those overpasses, so you're not barreling through there and causing injuries or accidents that way. Let's talk about some specific things to do when these types of storms threaten us. All right, with the squall line, which is what we're looking at here, one long, broken, continuous line of storm, there really is no escape, right? You're not getting out, especially if your destination is over here. There's no escaping it. So what do? Well, we give ourselves the best chance of survival with these storms, and the best opportunity to minimize damage, I guess is what I'm getting at. What you want to do is stop and face directly into the storm as it approaches. All right, a couple reasons for that. We talked about the very strong winds right here. Now, as they hit the ground, they're going to be kicking up their own little debris cloud, throwing along rocks, sticks, whatever. You want that to hit your car where you've got the strongest glass, front windshield. Also, they will easily topple high-profile vehicles like vans and stuff, so if you're out in one of those, you don't want to take those winds broadside. You want to be facing directly into the storm as those high winds move over the top of your vehicle. Keep informed via radio. How are you going to know what's out there? You're going to be listening to the folks that are out there communicating that information to us, usually over commercial radio. Escape routes for a smaller storm like a supercell. Well, it's going to kind of depend on what the storm is doing, what you're doing. If this is where I'm at, and this is where I need to go, okay, right now I don't want to get there, because I've got to drive through the worst part of the storm. But if I'm listening to the radio and I find out that this storm is moving off to the northwest, which is kind of what it looks like, following the general direction of the rain, well then I'll know, okay, if I just come down to the south and approach in from the southeast, I'm going to be coming in behind that storm. I can get there a little bit better, a little in a safer fashion, rather than cutting through the heart of it. If I'm right here and they tell me on the radio that it's moving right in my direction, well, obviously I don't want to stay right in the path of it if I have the choice. So again, I'm going to move north or south to get out of it. Or if I don't have time, if they tell me there's a large killer tornado in it, I don't want to be messing around with trying to drive out of the path. I'm going to find somewhere where I can get inside with shelter. So that's why keeping informed via radio is so important. Knowing where the storm is, your relationship to it, what direction it's moving, what kind of punch it's packing, all the information that we need. That's part of that awareness to make sure we're keeping ourselves safe. Safety zones. Okay, well, safety zones can be pretty simple. If we're at work, if we're at home, we know the best place to be when a tornado threatens is inside and underground. Not always going to be inside when these things strike. Or even if you are, maybe you live in mobile homes or something like that. Someplace that you know you've got to abandon. You don't want to try and ride it out. Manufactured housing of any kind doesn't stand up very well to tornado. So you decided, okay, I'm going to go someplace else to shelter. Well, wherever that is, just make sure you're not waiting too long to get there. Because this is what happened in Tushka, Oklahoma. Here we can see our folks arriving in our red SUV wanting to get into the community shelter. Trouble is, they waited too long. And either they were locked out or the shelter was never opened up in the first place. And now the storm is there. They think about leaving. And this she said, now just get over here and hold on to this sturdy-looking fence. So they're sheltering kids in their arms. And they start praying. And they get the answer that they wanted in the prayer, as we'll see here in just a second. There we go. Really close call. Sometimes it's necessary to leave our house and go somewhere for shelter. That's fine. We don't like to recommend that. Usually you want to try and shelter wherever you're at. But if you've got enough time, if you live in a type of house that you know isn't going to do well during the storm, then by all means get out and drive somewhere else, but just don't wait too long to get there. So that's sheltering indoors, or safety zones, I should say indoors. Safety zones outside. All right? Let's be thinking about things that can impact where we're at. For example, these folks in Stafford County last year, they knew there was a tornado warning in their county, and so they went on purpose into that grove of trees. Big trees and high wind don't mix well. 2 of the 3 people in that vehicle lost their lives. It doesn't have to be trees, it can be power poles, the power lines on top of those poles, the great big light standards we got along the freeways now, anything that can make our safety zone unsafe. So wherever you're going to be sheltering out this storm, if you have to be outside, then be looking around. Am I somewhere safe? Is there something that could fall on top of my vehicle and do even more damage? So that's the ACEs: awareness, communication, escape route, and safety zones. Let's tie it up together here a little bit on this video, and we'll think about this. Is this guy aware of the weather situation? Is he communicating? Does he have an escape route? And is he aware of his safety zones? Now I want to point out something out here right quick. The tornado directly over the top of that silver car, which is between the dark green SUV and the dark colored car.
Yep, right now. I can take pictures of it too. Well, I happen to be recording it. That's even better. Oh, half a mile. Stuff in it, but it's not. It's just twisting. Up there goes a flash and blowing up some power lines now.
Okay, several minutes later, and our tornado is still right over the top of the silver car between the dark green SUV and the dark colored car. If the tornado's not moving left, not moving right, but only getting bigger, we're in a bad place.
Yeah, now, yeah, I'm south. I'm in the parking lot. You hear the rain now? It's going past that road. I know that's the rain and trees. The nearest thing to me is probably down the road from your house to the corner. Yep, there goes the roof off the house. And yep. Hang on, I love you. I'm okay, how you doing? I drove here, I'm okay.
Okay, so was he aware of the weather situation? Yeah, he knew there was a tornado coming. He pulled over on purpose to videotape it. Was he communicating? Obviously talking to somebody on the cell phone. Maybe somebody in the path of that storm let him know what was coming their way. That'd be a good way to use communication. It's kind of what our spotters do. They let us know so we can let the public know. And at the very least, whoever he was talking to would know where to look for his body the next day. Should worse come to worse. Did he have an escape route? Yeah, this one's kind of tricky. Okay, he pulled off into a parking lot. He mentioned he was in a parking lot. Okay, so we talked about before, the tornado wasn't moving left, wasn't moving right, it was coming right at him. Anytime you're directly in the path of a tornado and you know that, and you've got a chance to get out of the path of it, take it. Now, if it's the last minute, if it's just on the other side of the end of the parking lot, it's too late now, and you're going to have to make the best of whatever shelter you've got available. But if you've got half a mile more, whatever, and you know you can get out of the path, then by all means do so. He sat there and let it come in right on top of it. Now, I'm making a big assumption there. Maybe the reason he pulled into that parking lot was because the road right behind him was full of bumper-to-bumper rush hour traffic, and he wasn't going anywhere anyway. I don't know. I think if the roads were clear, I would have liked to have seen somebody moving out of the path of the storm rather than move in right on top of it. And then safety zones. Was he taking advantage of safety zones? Where's the best place to be in a tornado? Inside and underground. All right, he said, I'm in a parking lot. Parking lot implies a business. Business implies a building. Anytime you can get inside a building rather than riding it out inside your car is a better bet in most cases. Unless, just some flimsy steel-sided building with nothing that's going to hold it together and then everything's going to be collapsing on top of you. That's still, if you can find an interior bathroom or something, at least to get in a small area, would be better than riding it out inside.